A political crisis is brewing in the Balkans that many warn, if left unresolved, could spark violence not seen in decades. Bosnia-Herzegovina has been working for years to heal the wounds of the 1995 Srebrenica genocide that left thousands of Muslims dead. But recent statements by Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik is threatening to unravel a long-standing peace. Dodik, who is a member of a collective Bosnian presidency, says he could push for a separate Serbian army. Many fear that could spark the type of ethnic clashes seen during the 90s. In a bid to defuse tensions, Dodik met Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara on Tuesday. The visit followed a meeting over the weekend where President Erdogan told a group of Bosnian NGOs that Turkey would support the well-being of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Dodik has been pushing a campaign for the Bosnian Serb parliament to establish its own army, tax authority and judiciary, institutions that are currently run jointly between Bosniaks and Serbs. The system was established in the aftermath of the Bosnian wars to bring warring parties together in a peace agreement. And to discuss the political crisis more in depth, I'm joined now from Vienna by Vedran Dzihic. He is the co-director of the Center for Advanced Studies, Southeast Europe at the University of Rijeka. And from Sarajevo, Edina Becirevic. She is a professor of security studies at the University of Sarajevo. A warm welcome to you both. Edina, let me begin with you. Could you give us some background information into why Bosnian Serb leader Dodik threatened to separate from the state institutions?
Well, Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik has been threatening to separate from the state institutions really for the past 10 years or so. And unfortunately, most of the Western allies have been treating that as a bluff and only as a rhetoric for the purpose of homogenizing his voters. But his recent plans and actions, an announcement, for example, that he wants to dismantle the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina and to establish armed forces of Republika Srpska, is a very clear announcement of war, because he also laid down a very clear plan on how is he going to implement that.
Yes.
For example, blocking and taking over the army barracks located in the Serb half of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And of course, that would include taking over the weapons. That cannot be done without the violence.
So, yes. Vedran, what is your take on that? I understand this is not the first time Dodik is threatening to separate from the state institutions, but why do you think this specific crisis suddenly attracted so much attention? What is different this time?
I mean, yes, that's the usual political game that Dodik keeps playing for years. So there's nothing new about this kind of rising tensions, misusing, instrumentalizing ethnic or national identity for the purposes of political power. This time he just took it a step further than he usually does. He started directly threatening the constitution, pulling out the army, and he crossed a certain red line. And I think he did it so because the situation in the Republic of Srpska and his power base is threatened. I mean, the situation is horrible. We have negative impact of the COVID-19 crisis. We have seen a lot of scandals in the Serbian hospitals in the Republic of Srpska, etc., etc. There's a lot of corruption, and people are simply not happy. And each time there is dissatisfaction, he raises it to the next level. This time it's dangerous, but I still do think that the international community in the West has started now drawing some red lines, and there is hopefully a prospect to just slowing down the pace of this crisis.
So, Edina, what is the mood like there in Sarajevo? Are people concerned?
People are very concerned and very frightened. Not only in Sarajevo, I think people are concerned, especially in Republika Srpska, minorities and Bosniak and Croats returnees, because The rhetoric has never been more extreme as it is now. Yes, there have been crises after the war, but this is definitely the most serious one because Dodik has announced a serious plan for secession and calling it everything else but the plan for secession would be really misleading. He's planning to create a separate judiciary, Republika Srpska's own intelligence agency,
Yes.
tax administration. So he's moved beyond the level of threats and just rhetorics.
Yes.
Recently, for example, the Assembly of Republika Srpska adopted a law establishing its own medicine procurement agencies. As Vedran said, it is the response to the COVID crisis, and he's trying to cover up for all those scandals of his administrations. But this is the first of its proclaimed agencies to operate separately from the state level. And he is showing that this is not a bluff.
Okay, so Vedran, what should the international community be doing, especially the European Union? I mean, has the West lost interest in Bosnia-Herzegovina?
I mean, look, the EU enlargement was, in a way, a dead man walking for almost last few years. There is no big interest in the enlargement policy, and this is now a backlash that we see. The EU has been weak. The US administration under Trump was supporting Vučić in Serbia and having different plans with the region. Now Biden is trying to reestablish a kind of Western or US supremacy in that part of Europe. But what we have here going on is a major clash between Russia and the West. China also plays a certain role. Dodik plays this Russian card all the time. And I think what the West now has to do in order to protect both the interests of the West, but also the liberal democratic order in the Western Balkans, it has to draw red lines. It has to start using sanctions. The German Minister of Foreign Affairs just yesterday announced that there will be, if Dodik takes it further, there will be sanctions, financial sanctions against the Republic of Srpska and all those that are working towards destruction of Bosnia. And I think the US has to follow. And I also think that Turkey has to think twice and now has to align with the West when it comes to the Bosnian situation in order to protect the forest.
What's your, by the way, Vedran, let's continue with you. What's your take on Turkey's mediation efforts? I mean, have they paid off so far? Anything concrete has been achieved?
I mean, Turkey and Turkish President Erdogan tried to play it big and to offer kind of a bigger solution for the Western Balkans. Unfortunately, that has not delivered so far. Turkey has a strong interest in Serbia. That's for Turkey important from the economic point of view. But Turkey at the same time has strong cultural and emotional ties, both to Bosnia, to regions like Sanjak, and to the Muslims in Kosovo and Albania. And now this kind of playing all possible cards, I think, has to stop. Even though Serbia will remain an important partner for Turkey, Turkey has, from my point of view, stand directly and protect those that are protecting the sovereignty and territoriality of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and there is no way around that one. So I think there are some tough decisions coming up for Turkish government.
Yeah, Edina, so what's your take on Turkish mediation efforts in the Western Balkans, and how do you think Turkey keeps the balance among Bosnian leaders as well as that of Serbia and Russia?
Yeah, well, I think it's time for Turkey to take sides. It's impossible at this point to be friends of Dodik and dedicated friend of Vučić and to be friends of the Bosnian state. So Turkey has, in the past couple of months, Turkey has played a constructive role, but mediation role that the Turkey tried, it simply did not pay off. We know that Dodik met President Erdogan in the summer, and then just recently he also met with President Erdogan, and he softens his tone while in Ankara. He tones down his aggressive rhetorics while on the Turkish soil, but as soon as he comes back on the home soil to Bosnia and Herzegovina, he doubles down on his threats and his rhetorics become more radical than ever. I think that is a really very clear sign.
Okay, Vedran,
some good relations with Serbia.
Following the UN Security Council vote, decision actually, does that decision mean stripping the powers of the international high representative in the country? And how will that impact the enforcement of the Dayton peace agreement?
I think that was a bad compromise in the Security Council from a very principled point of view. I do think that the West succumbing to the interests of Russia and China and of Russia in the Security Council and sacrificing the stability in Bosnia to a certain extent is a wrong way to do. I understand they wanted to get the extension of the mandate for the OIFOR, for the stability forces in Bosnia. That was managed, but now it's time to go back. And I don't think that there is much space for trying to reach a compromise with Russia, as Russia is directly and offensively opposing both the West and the European Union and the NATO in the Western Balkans. And I think Russia will continue doing everything in its power just to dismantle and to discredit the West. And I think that the West simply should not let it be that way.
All right, Vedran, Edina, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining us on Straight Talk.